The age of reason, August Brandt reflected, was choked with liars. He stood in the damp cellar of the Daumer house, the air thick with the metallic tang of new blood and the sour reek of spilled wine. Criminal Inspector Brandt was a man of logic, a devotee of the observable fact. His Nuremberg was a city of clocks, canals, and commerce. Yet, for 2 years, his life had revolved around a case that belonged to the age of myth. He did it to himself, August, muttered Chief Binder, his jowls quivering with indignation. The boy is an actor, always has been. Brandt ignored him, kneeling by the pool of dark wine and darker blood. Kaspar Hauser, the child of Europe, lay upstairs, tended by a physician, a fresh gash on his forehead. The boy had been found here, raving, claiming a man in a black coat had attacked him. He said the man smelled of tobacco, Brandt said, his voice flat. He dipped a finger in the viscous puddle, rubbing it against his thumb. It was sticky, too sticky. He smells tobacco everywhere. He smells poison in his soup. Binder snapped. We have indulged this fantasy long enough. The city council is weary of it. He's a political embarrassment. Brandt's eyes scanned the floor. Stone, straw, broken cask staves. And there, half hidden beneath a burlap sack, a small object. He plucked it from the grime. A tiny wooden horse. Its head was snapped clean off. What is that? Binder demanded. A toy, Brandt said, pocketing it. He plays with toys. It proves nothing. Write your report, August. Self-inflicted wound, born of hysteria. Close the file. Brandt rose to his full height. He was a broad-shouldered man, his face carved from hard experience, but his eyes, when they rested on the cellar stairs, were shadowed with a singular paternal terror. He described the man who kept him in the dark, Herr Binder, before he could even speak our language. He said the man gave him 2 wooden horses, just before leaving him in the city square. And he'll say, "Thank it again to the next English duke who offers him a carriage ride." It's a performance. Brandt held up his fingers. The sticky residue wasn't just wine. Honey, mixed with the blood. To make it look like more than it was? See? Deception. Or, Brandt countered, his voice dropping, a signature. A calculated act of theatrical cruelty. This wasn't an assassination. It was a warning. Binder threw his hands up. I wash my hands of it. You are officially suspended from this case. If you pursue this time's ghost asterisk, you are on your own. Brandt didn't watch him leave. He was already climbing the stairs to Kaspar's room. He had been the first to interrogate the boy, or rather, the creature who had appeared in Nuremberg 2 years prior, feet bloodied, mind a blank slate, clutching a letter addressed to a cavalry captain. Brandt had seen through the rumors of a wild child. He saw only trauma. He had taught the boy to speak, to read, to times be asterisk. And in doing so, he had come to believe Kaspar's fragmented, terrifying truth. He was not a fraud, but a prisoner. He found Kaspar sitting bolt upright in bed, his pale face slick with sweat. The boy was nearly 20, but his eyes were ancient. He found me, Herr Brandt, Kaspar whispered, the words still clumsy on his tongue. The man. I know, asterisk mein Sohn, asterisk, Brandt said, the term of affection slipping out, as it often did. He sat on the bed, his pragmatic policeman's mind racing. The authorities would not protect him. The city wanted him gone. The attack was a message, and the next would not be a warning. He had the mask. Kaspar trembled, pointing to his own face. The black silk. Brandt's blood ran cold. Kaspar had never mentioned a mask. What mask, Kaspar? The man who came. In the cellar. Not the times other times one. A different man. He wore a mask of black silk. He said. Kaspar's German failed him, and he lapsed into the mangled, half-remembered phrases from his dungeon. Asterisk, die Gräfin, sie schickt, ihr Schweigen, asterisk, asterisk, the Countess, she sends, your silence. But Brandt's asterisk, Brandt's internal compass, built on 2 decades of chasing smugglers and thieves, suddenly found its true north. This was not about a feral child. It was about politics. The rumors that swirled around Caspar that he was the true-born Prince of Baden, stolen from his cradle and replaced with a dead infant to secure the line of succession for a lesser branch solidified from abstract conspiracy into cold, hard motive. The Countess von Hochberg, the architect of that succession. A woman with the power to move armies, let alone silence one inconvenient damaged boy. We are leaving, Caspar, Brandt said, pulling the boy from the bed. Leaving, but Herr Daumer. We are leaving Nuremberg. Tonight. Brandt grabbed a heavy wool coat and his service pistol. The man who raised you is dead. The man who attacked you is new, but they work for the same shadow. And she has just shown her hand. He barred the door, listening to the house settle. Binder was gone. The doctor was downstairs. They had minutes. Where will we go? Caspar asked, his entire body shaking. Somewhere she cannot reach us, Brandt said, though he wasn't sure such a place existed. He looked at the broken horse in his palm. We're going to find the only man in Europe more obsessed with you than I am. They fled into the wet, cobbled night, a disgraced inspector and a prince of shadows, leaving the Age of Reason behind them. Lord Philip Stanhope, 4th Earl of that name, was a man of exquisite, dangerous passions. His leased palace near Ansbach was a fortress of English rationality set against the tepid superstitions of the Bavarian countryside. He collected rare orchids, ancient astrolabes, and, most recently, Caspar Hauser. My dear Brandt, you look pursued. Stanhope greeted them, stepping onto the grand portico. He was tall and lean, dressed in an immaculate London-cut suit, his face handsome and sharp. And you, Caspar, you are hurt. Appalling. I heard the rumors from Nuremberg that you had fallen on your own knife, so to speak. I knew it was nonsense. It was an attack, Lord Stanhope, Brandt said, his hand still on the pistol in his pocket. We are not safe. You are now. Stanhope's smile was a thin, reassuring blade. He ushered them inside, into a world of polished mahogany, blazing fires, and the scent of expensive brandy. The Countess von Hochberg, he said, handing Brandt a glass, is a creature of the old world. She believes in bloodlines. I believe in time's progress asterisk, in science. Caspar, here, is the most fascinating scientific puzzle of our century. A mind born twice. We must protect him, Brandt. We must times study times him. For 3 weeks, the palace was a haven. Stanhope was the perfect false ally. He was wealthy, insulated by diplomatic privilege, and utterly logical. He dismissed the local police as fools and scoffed at Hochberg's medieval ambitions. His interest, however, soon became clinical. The dungeon Caspar, Stanhope would press during their daily sessions in his vast, dust-moted library. Tell me again of the darkness. You say you were given only bread and water, but who times gave it to you? What did his hands look like? Brandt stood by the window, watching the first snows of winter dust the elaborate frozen gardens. He disliked these sessions. Stanhope treated Caspar not as a man, but as a specimen pinned to a board. I never saw his face, Caspar stammered, his gaze distant. He never spoke, only the smell. Yes, the tobacco, Stanhope said impatiently, jotting in a leather-bound journal. A common vice. But the Times horses asterisk, Caspar. You said he gave you 2. What did you do with them? I played. In the dark. I made them run on my knees.
And when he took you out to the city, did he take the horses back?
No, I had them in my coat, but I lost one. I think I was so tired. Stanhope leaned in, his eyes bright. Think, Caspar. The man who brought you, the man who fed you, are they the same? Was it times one times man? Caspar clutched his head. I don't know. It was always dark. Please, Lord Stanhope, no more. Enough, Brant said from the window. You are tiring him. Stanhope sat back, steepling his fingers. Forgive me, Inspector. My curiosity gets the better of me. But it is only by unlocking these memories that we can identify his tormentor. We must map the cage to find the zookeeper, wouldn't you agree? I am more concerned, Brant said, with the hunter. That night, Brant couldn't sleep. Stanhope's logic was infectious, but Brant's own logic was screaming a warning. Why was Stanhope so focused on the times past times tormentor and not the times present times one, the man in the silk mask who had invoked the Countess? He padded silently down the corridor to Caspar's room. He found the boy asleep, but his bed was empty. Panic seized Brant. He scanned the room. Caspar was huddled in the corner, by the heavy velvet curtains, fast asleep on the floor. It was a posture Brant recognized. It was how Caspar slept in his first days of freedom, curled up, as if still in a space too small to lie down. He was regressing. Brant went to the window, meaning to close the curtains to block the moonlight. He looked down at the pristine snow on the terrace below, and froze. There, placed perfectly in the center of the terrace, was a small, new, *unbroken times wooden horse. It was not a warning, it was a message. I am here. I am watching. I can enter your fortress at will. Brant's heart hammered. Der man, I am Schatten. The man in the shadow. Caspar's original jailer. He stormed through the palace, his pistol now in his hand. He found Stanhope not in his bedroom, but in the library, still dressed, writing furiously in his journal by candlelight. He's here, Brant said, his voice a low growl. Stanhope looked up, unstartled. Who is here, Inspector? The assassin. The one from the dungeon. He left. A token on Caspar's terrace. Stanhope's mask of civilized concern did not slip, but his eyes times, gleamed *. Impossible. This house is locked tight. The storm is... I don't care about the storm. He was here. He's testing us. We have to move, Caspar. Nonsense. Stanhope stood, closing his journal. You are rattled, Brant. It was probably a servant. Or the wind. The wind doesn't leave carved toys. Perhaps. Stanhope said softly. It was times Caspar *. What? Think, man. Use that policeman's logic of yours. The boy is under immense stress. He is reverting. You said so yourself. He attacks himself in a cellar. Now, he recreates the symbols of his trauma. He is not a prince, Brant. He is a deeply disturbed, tragically clever lunatic. He is crying for attention. Brant stared at the Englishman. The argument was sound. It was logical. It was exactly what Chief Binder had said, and it was a lie. You knew he was sleeping on the floor, Brant said. Stanhope paused. I checked on him, as you did. You're lying. You've been pushing him, probing him, making him times remember *. You're not trying to heal him, Stanhope. You're trying to break him. Brant lunged forward and snatched the journal from the desk. Stanhope shouted, grabbing for it, but Brant was stronger. He held the book to the candlelight. It wasn't written in English or German. It was a cipher. But the last page was not. It was a simple, hastily scrawled note, as if summarizing his findings. Asterisk. He confirms one jailer. Scent of Turkish tobacco. Memories of the horses are primary. He has no memory of the journey to Nuremberg. The swap is safe. He knows nothing of use. The asset is compromised and no longer required. Asterisk, asterisk. No longer required. Asterisk, you. Bastard. Brandt breathed. You're not protecting him. You're times assessing times him. Stanhope straightened his waistcoat, his face now a mask of pure, aristocratic contempt. The Countess von Hochberg is not a monster, Brandt. She is a patriot. She saved Baden. From a half-witted degenerate bloodline, she did what was necessary. And you? What's your part in this? Scientific curiosity? He's a historical footnote, an anomaly. My agreement with the Countess was simple. I would be given access to him. I would use my methods to plumb his memory, to discover, once and for all, if he times remembered, times the cradle, if he remembered the journey, if he was, in fact, a times threat asterisk, and if he was, then his silence would be made permanent, Stanhope said, as if discussing the weather. But it turns out, he's just a broken toy. He remembers nothing of value. My work is done. The Countess is free to tidy up. The man on the terrace, Brandt whispered, the full, horrific weight of the betrayal settling on him. He's not here to times test, times the defenses. He's here for times you, asterisk. To get your report. He's here, Stanhope corrected, to take delivery. A sudden, fierce gust of wind rattled the library windows, the snow outside turning into a blizzard. Caspar, Brandt realized. Where is Caspar? I told him I had arranged passage to England, that a carriage was waiting. Stanhope glanced at the clock. I told him to meet me in the Times Orangery asterisk, for his own safety. Brandt struck him. A single brutal backhand that sent the aristocrat crashing into a globe of the world. You didn't just break him, you sold him. He ran from the library, plunging into the dark, snow-choked corridors, praying he was not too late. The Times Orangery asterisk, or Winter Garden, was Lord Stanhope's pride. It was a vast, sprawling labyrinth of glass and wrought iron, attached to the palace's western wing. Inside, a suffocating artificial jungle of exotic palms and flowering vines fought against the frozen world outside. Brandt burst through the doors, the humid air hitting him like a physical blow. The blizzard raged, snowflakes plastering the glass panes, encasing the greenhouse in a translucent, shifting cocoon. The wind screamed, a high-pitched keen over, the rattling of the iron frame. Caspar! Brandt yelled, his voice sounding dead in the thick, floral-scented air. He saw him. At the far end of the central path, standing by a marble fountain, was Caspar, clutching a small travel bag. And with him, Lord Stanhope, dabbing a handkerchief at his bleeding lip. Brandt, you fool! Stanhope shouted. Leave us! This does not concern you! Get away from him, Caspar, Brandt roared, raising his pistol. Caspar looked between the two men, his mind, already so fragile, shattering with confusion. Herr Brandt? He is saving us, he said. He lied, Caspar. He works for her, for the Countess. He's mad, Caspar, Stanhope said smoothly. He's been relieved of his duties. A paranoid obsession. Come, the carriage is waiting. And then, a new sound. The snap times of a twig. It came not from the door, nor from Stanhope. It came from the dense, shadowy foliage near the ceiling. Brandt looked up, and his blood turned to ice. A tall figure was perched on the iron rafters, 30 feet above them. A long, dark coat, a wide-brimmed hat pulled low, obscuring all features. He was utterly, unnaturally still. He was exactly as Caspar had described him. Asterisk der Mann. I am Schatten, asterisk. He's here, Caspar whispered, his voice dissolving into a whimper. He dropped his bag. The man from the dark. The figure dropped. He didn't jump. He dropped. He landed on the stone path with the silence of a falling shadow, in a perfect crouch. As he rose, the humid air was instantly, sickeningly, filled with the rich, sweet scent of Turkish tobacco. He was not a phantom. He was a man, but a man who moved like smoke. Run! Brandt shoved Caspar toward a side path. The assassin moved. He was not fast. He was times efficient asterisk. He didn't rush Brandt, who held the pistol. He moved toward Caspar, the true target. In his hand was a long, thin blade, like a stiletto. Brandt fired. The explosion was deafening in the glass house. The assassin didn't flinch, simply angling his body so the bullet ripped through his coat and shattered a massive pane of glass behind him. The blizzard roared into the breach. Snow and wind blasted the tropical plants. This way, Stanhope yelled, fleeing in the opposite direction. Caspar, stay with me! Brandt grabbed the boy's arm, pulling him down a narrow path between towering, waxy-leafed trees. The assassin followed. He was silent. His feet made no sound on the gravel path. All Brandt could hear was his own heart, Caspar's frantic sobs, and the scream of the wind through the broken glass. They burst into a small dome, a glass bubble filled with orchids, a dead end. Back! Brandt yelled, pushing Caspar behind him. The assassin appeared in the doorway. The hat still shadowed his face. He simply stood there, waiting. He was the patience of the dungeon. He was the inevitability of the dark. Who are you? Brandt spat. The man tilted his head. From his pocket, he produced a small object and tossed it onto the floor. A wooden horse, its head neatly snapped off. Caspar let out a choked scream. It's him, the one who brought the bread. It's times him asterisk. This was the man who had stolen Caspar's life. A primal rage, deeper than his logic, seized Brandt. He was no longer an inspector. He was a father. He fired again. The assassin was already moving, using the large stone planters as cover. Brandt heard the times, thwack times of the bullet embedding in terracotta. He's playing with us! Brandt muttered, reloading his pistol. He knows this place. He was here, Caspar panted. I saw him, in the garden. I thought he was a gardener. He was, Brandt realized. Stanhope let him in. He's been living here, waiting. The assassin emerged from the other side of the orchid dome, cutting them off. He held the stiletto low. Brandt looked around, his mind racing. He was a creature of the city, of alleys and angles. This was a jungle, but it was a jungle made of time's glass asterisk. Caspar, Brandt said, his draw spar, voice low and urgent. When I move, you break the glass, as much as you can. Do you understand? Break it, with that statue. He pointed to a small marble cherub. I can't. You times can asterisk, Brandt commanded, or he will put you back in the dark. That was the key. The fear of the dark was greater than the fear of the man. Caspar nodded, his eyes wild. Now, Brandt yelled. He fired his pistol at the iron frame above the assassin's head. It was a distraction. As the assassin looked up, Caspar lifted the cherub and, with a desperate shriek, hurled it at the glass wall. The pane exploded outwards. The blizzard times attacked asterisk. A wall of sub-zero air and blinding snow engulfed the dome. The delicate orchids blackened in seconds. The assassin staggered, blinded by the sudden freezing chaos. Brandt didn't hesitate. He wasn't a duelist, he was a policeman. He charged, tackling the tall man at the knees. They crashed through the ruined wall, tumbling out of the humid greenhouse and into the deep snow of the garden proper. The assassin's hat flew off. Brandt found himself on top of a man who was pale, unremarkable, and utterly calm. His eyes were gray and empty. He didn't struggle. He simply tried to bring the stiletto up into Brandt's ribs. Brandt slammed the man's wrist against the frozen earth, again and again, until the knife fell from numb fingers. He grabbed his pistol from his belt and brought the heavy butt down on the man's temple. The assassin went limp. Brandt lay panting in the snow, the world a swirl of white. He had won. He staggered to his feet. Caspar was standing in the broken frame of the Times Orangery asterisk, shaking so violently he could barely stand. It's over, Brandt gasped. Is he dead? Brandt looked down at the assassin. No, but he is finished. He heard a sound, a slow, deliberate clapping. Lord Stanhope stood in the doorway of the Times, Orangery asterisk, his suit immaculate, his face a mask of disappointment. Bravo, Inspector. Truly, a magnificent asterisk pulp Times performance, the brute force of the common man. It's over, Stanhope. I'll have you arrested. I'll expose all of it. The Countess, the conspiracy, you. Stanhope laughed, a dry, humorless sound. You'll do what? March this Times Gardner asterisk, to the Ansbach constabulary? The one whose wages times I times pay? Will you tell them a ghost attacked you? He stepped out into the snow, walking calmly toward the unconscious assassin. You've proven nothing, Brandt. You've simply assaulted my staff and my guest. You're a disgraced officer, trespassing with a known lunatic. My word against yours. The journal, Brandt growled. A cipher. My private scientific musings. Utterly meaningless. Stanhope stood over the assassin. You've won Times this asterisk, he said, gesturing to the man in the snow. You've beaten the dog, but the master, Brandt, the Countess, she is not a single person. She is an Times idea asterisk. She is the idea of order, of blood, of Times necessity asterisk. And you are chaos. An inconvenience. He pulled a small silver-plated pistol from his waistcoat. You've seen to her Times past asterisk, he said, nodding at the assassin. Allow me to see to her Times future asterisk. He aimed the pistol, not at Brandt, but at Caspar. Brandt was too far away. No! He never saw Caspar move. The boy who had been defined by his passivity, his victimhood, his catatonic terror, did the one thing no one expected. Caspar Times ran asterisk. He ran Times at Times Stanhope. He didn't attack. He just ran, screaming. A raw animal sound of pure, liberated trauma. Stanhope, startled by this sudden, feral charge, took a step back. He slipped on the icy marble of the terrace. He fell. The pistol discharged, the sound flat in the howling wind. Stanhope cried out, clutching his own leg, a dark stain spreading on his trousers. Brandt was on him in a second, kicking the pistol away. He stared at Stanhope, bleeding and defeated at his feet. He looked at the unconscious Times, Shattenman Times in the snow. He looked at Caspar, who was staring at his own hands, panting as if seeing them for the first time. They had won. They had actually, truly won. Asterisk. Asterisk. 2 days later. Asterisk. Asterisk. The victory was ash in his mouth. Lord Stanhope was, as he had predicted, untouchable. His accidental shooting was a tragedy. The local magistrate was deeply apologetic. The assassin had, of course, vanished from the locked room where Brandt had put him long before the constables arrived. He's a member of my staff. Stanhope had explained from his chaise lounge, his leg bandaged. "A groundskeeper. He saw you attack me and tried to intervene. You, in your paranoid state, nearly killed him. He fled, fearing for his life. A sad, sad business." The case was closed. Brandt and Kaspar were on a postal coach, heading east toward the Austrian border under false names. They had left with nothing but the clothes on their backs and a small bag of Stanhope's money, stolen by Brandt from the library desk. They sat in silence, the coach rattling over the frozen roads. They were fugitives. "You were brave, Kaspar," Brandt said, his voice low. Kaspar didn't look at him. He was watching the dark, snow-laden trees pass by. "He let me go." "What?" "The man in the dungeon. The one you caught. He let me go. He gave me the horses. He opened the door. He pointed me to the city. Why?" Brandt had no answer. "And the other one?" Kaspar continued, his voice a monotone. "The man in the silk mask. The one in the cellar. He was different. He wanted to hurt me." A terrible, logical policeman's truth dawned on Brandt. He had been so wrong. "My God," Brandt whispered. "They weren't the same. They were never the same." Stanhope hadn't just been extracting memories. He had been times confirming times them. The Countess had 2 agents. One, the original jailer, the Times Schattenman Times, a man who, perhaps, had grown a conscience and released his prisoner. The other, a new, brutal killer, sent to clean up the mess. Brandt hadn't defeated the conspiracy. He had just beaten the *1-man Times who might have been their ally. "She will send him again, won't she?" Kaspar asked. He wasn't looking at Brandt. He was looking at his own reflection in the dark, icy window. "Who?" Brandt asked, though he already knew. "The man in the silk mask, the one who times wants times me dead." Brandt looked at the man who was his son in all but blood. He saw the permanent, haunted shadow in his eyes. He had saved him from the dungeon. He had saved him from the greenhouse. But he could not save him from the world. He had won the battle, but the war was, and always had been, lost. The Countess von Hochberg was still in her palace. Her power was untouched. Her shadow was long, and it would stretch as far as they could run. "Yes," August Brandt said, checking the load on his pistol. "She will." He put his arm around the boy. The coach drove on, into the heart of the winter, 2 figures fleeing a darkness that was faster and colder than the snow.